Welcome back to SleeplessRonin Plays. And today we're doing a little bit of something different. We're still continuing reading through the technical readout 3060, but today we're not doing a ranking video because all that's left in this book is what might be the most, how do I say this politely? The most overlooked and least well-regarded thing in all of Battletech. That's right, we're talking about the gigantic mistake made by my favorite clan, Smoke Jaguar, the Protomech. These are battle mechs that weigh between 2 and 9 tons originally, but they do become ultra heavy or super heavy protos. Later on, they go up to like 15 tons. But even though there are later on Protomechs, there are less Protomechs in all of existence than there are in most technical readouts that contain battle armor. There's more battle armor in those technical readouts than there are usually in the entirety of Protomechs. The first generation of Protomechs only comprises like 8 different protos, the second generation the same way, and then there is like a handful, like 5 or so, contained in the Wars of Reaving. One of the big things about Protomechs that makes them so unpopular is they are ugly. They are very ugly designs until you get to the War of Reaving ones. They stop trying to make them look like mythological creatures. All the early protos are mythological creatures in some variety or another. Harpy, Siren, Satyr, Centaur, they don't look good. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do own them. Multiple varieties of them. But it's nothing to crow about. So what makes a Protomech such a gigantic mess? Well, they, in many ways, are a lot like vehicles. They're battle mechs that ignore a lot of battle mech rules. They're also extremely squishy, because if you think about it, you really can't stick a lot of armor on something that weighs 6 tons. I mean, you look at vehicles like that, like vehicles like the Savannah Master, they are not protected. They rely on their speed. But that's the other issue with the Protomechs. A lot of the Protomechs do not have high speed. There are a few that actually can reach decent speeds on the battlefield, 10, 15 and so. But a lot of them hover around the, well, 4.6, 5.8, 3.5, in that kind of category. Meaning they're slow. Where do they excel at? Well, they excel in swarm tactics. Because since this is a clan unit, they come in points of 5 protos. So a star of Protomechs is 25 Protomechs, which is actually a lot of targets in the battlefield. They do weapons declaration as a unit, and they're annoying. I mean, and they stack like vehicles. So you can fit like 2 in a hex, or a vehicle in them in a hex. They can be in hex the mech, so hooray. They have a different kind of hit chart, which I'll be showing on the screen, than your average battle mech. You will notice in the locations 3 and 11, the special thing called near miss. The near miss means even though you hit, you didn't hit. It doesn't even work like the near miss quirk or whatever, the glancing blow rule, where like if you hit exactly, you do like half damage. Oh, no. In this, if you roll 3 or 11, you just missed. It's like hitting a leg when the mech has partial cover. It's frustrating and annoying. They also did them out relatively light weapons, because again, what are you going to be able to fit on a mech for just a few tons? Some of them do mount up to an LRM-10, or in the case of the Minotaur, it mounts double ER medium lasers, clan ER medium lasers, so they actually can do some damage at distance, but again, the Minotaur is moving at 353. It's a 9-ton mech that moves as if it was a 90-ton mech. See, that's one of the issues with the Protomechs, is they didn't scale well. They're not a brilliant design in any way, shape, or form. They are low materials consumption, which is why Smoke Jaguar apparently attempted to first build them. They're not pretty. They're not brilliant. They just work weirdly. They use gunnery. The pilots have gunnery, but they do not have a piloting skill because you can't knock a Protomech down. Protomechs, like vehicles, can only traverse 1 level of terrain elevation per hex it moves through. So they can't climb up a cliffside that's 2 hexes high like a basic mech can. They're just weird. I mean, they're not pretty in any way, shape, or form. But let's take a look at the 8 ones in the 3060 book, because that's what we did promise we'd do. And essentially, as I was going through all the... I promised I'd cover the technical readouts. And it means I'm going to cover the Protomechs. Protomechs, a lot like vehicles, don't suffer from heat. If they get damaged by a heat-causing weapon like an Inferno or a plasma rifle, they suffer the same way that vehicles suffer. They don't benefit from partial cover like mechs because they're 1 level high. So in fact, if they're adjacent to partial cover, they're just kind of hiding. There's a hilarious bit in the technical readout that says, Protomechs, when firing a non-standard missile launcher like an LRM-3 or an SRM-5, use the something blah 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 blah. Or you could just go into your big book, the Total Warfare book, and find the chart that contains every single missile number between like 1 and 40. It's on that chart. You'll find it. So, let's talk about the mechs we've got. Oh, sorry. One more little rule thing. They're like mechs. They do torso twist, and they have the same hex thing, or the same firing arcs as battle mechs, despite the fact that they have no rear armor, so they get hit like in 360. Everything goes into them from the same direction. There is only one hit location chart for Protomechs. There's not like a side chart or anything like that you'll find with mechs and vehicles. They can survive hits to the head, in fact, because the pilot's in the body. And unlike another normal mech, when a battle mech gets destroyed, the pilot can eject or whatever. When a Protomech is destroyed, the pilot is killed. That, to me, is a... I wouldn't want to pilot a Protomech. Of course, the one thing that did come out of the Protomechs that was interesting was they developed some new weapons for Protomechs, such as the Protomech autocannons and stuff like that, which the clans would then later on end up sticking on a variety of other vehicles and mechs and stuff like that. So they at least got something interesting out of them. But let's take a look at the Protomechs themselves. The first up is the Harpy. This is a 2-ton Protomech. Essentially, it means it weighs the same as an elemental or battle armor like the Kanazuchi. So I don't even know why they included this one. Probably because I guess maybe at the time they wrote this, the 2-ton battle armors may not have existed. So this actually has less armor. Yes. This has less armor than a Kanazuchi does. It does have internal structure as well, but that still actually means it's barely more durable. Well, it's actually less durable than a Kanazuchi, since essentially if you blow this thing's arm off, it works like a battle mech, and that you lose an arm, the damage then goes to the torso, and then just goes pop and dead. And this Harpy that weighs 2 tons moves like a battle armor. It's a 353 mech, which means it can't move at all, really. And it's only got a machine gun. This 2-ton Harpy is just garbage. I mean, if I was doing a rating system, it'd be at the very bottom. Next up, we have the Siren that weighs 3 tons. It does not make me unhappy because while it has only 1 more point of armor than the Harpy has 11 points. The Siren has 12. Ooh. It carries 2 light machine guns, so twice as many weapons, even though they do not very much damage. But it can at least move 10-15. I mean, this thing can traverse the battlefield and actually, get some movement modifiers and not be blown up constantly. Well, if you hit it, it's still going to blow up pretty fast. I mean, these things look like they're one-hit kills. I just lost the light. Hooray. Next up, we have the Satyr. It weighs a whopping 4 tons. And it has a ER small laser and a light active probe. So honestly, if you're doing scouting and recon, 5 of these suckers and a point is actually pretty good recon because of the light active probe. And thankfully, it can move as well. It can go 7-11 with its 12 points of armor. It has 1 point of armor in an arm, 1 point of internal in an arm, which means if you fire and hit it with this small laser, you penetrate, blow the arm off, and then hit the torso. Thankfully, it only has weapons in the torso, so losing the arms doesn't matter. Next up, the Centaur. The Centaur is a 5-tonner with 20 whole points of armor. It moves at 6'9", which is nice. I mean, at least it's not embarrassingly slow. I mean, it's got some speed. I mean, your average 20-ton clan mech outclasses it any day of the week, though. But it carries some interesting weapons, at least. It carries an SRM-2, an LRM-3, and an ER micro laser. The ER micro laser is what's called a main gun, giving it another location that it can, be hit in. And that's kind of interesting, except as you lose arms, the main gun becomes less effective. Because essentially, when it says main gun, what it means is kind of like a soldier carrying an M16. This is my main gun, kind of thing. It's not like a shoulder-mounted cannon, even though when you actually see, and I'm going to show you some of the record sheets, they're probably floating around already, that the main gun looks like it should be something that's mounted in the shoulder. No. The Centaur has 2 shoulder-mounted weapons, but they're counted as torso weapons, and that's what the SRM and the LRM are. Next up is the 6-ton Hydra. The Hydra is one of those things that gets back to not moving fast. It's a 4.6. It's got 29 hull points of armor. It carries a micro pulse laser and a Streak SRM-3. Yeah, still not very good, but at least, 5 of them could be kind of scary. It's got 10 reloads on that Streak SRM-3, so, at least the Streak SRMs for the clans have 12 hex range, so you can actually maybe bother or something. And a lot of pilots in this thing shooting, maybe you'll get a couple hits in, I don't know. The Rock is at least going back to something that's more combat effective. The Rock is a 7-tonner. Ooh, 7 tons. It moves 5.85 and has 31 points of armor, a whole 2 over the Hydra. It carries exactly 1 weapon, a man cannon ER medium laser. Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. At least it's kind of a threat. A point of those things, 5 of those things, is kind of a scary thing. It's like, 1 arm of a Nova. Even though it weighed 35 tons, so you could have brought a full-size light mech to the battlefield for what that is. Something I failed to mention with that, when you build a point of Protomechs, you don't have to have all 5 of them being the same proto. You could bring 2 Hydra and 3 Rocks if you felt like it. Next up, the 8-ton Gorgon. The Gorgon moves at 4.6 and has 34 points of armor. More armor. Oh. It mounts an LRM-10. Okay, that's a solid weapon. And an ER micro laser. It has 12 reloads on an LRM-10. So honestly, the Gorgon is actually kind of a scary proto, because you can get 5 of that sucker for a point. You build your star, you got 4 real mechs, and 5 of these LRM-10 carrying protos. Scatter these protos out and make sure they're not really, the main target, since they only move 4.6. Keep them, hidden and stuff like that. And just pelt the enemy with all these LRM-10s. It's actually kind of a scary one. The ER Micro is just really kind of like a point defense weapon, and it's... yay. Last up, we have the Minotaur, the 9-ton Protomech from the 3060 book. It has 36 points of armor, being the most in the entire book. It moves at a paltry 3.53, but it does make up for that in having the highest offensive capability of 2 ER medium lasers. So there is that. The Minotaur Proto can actually dish out a significant amount of damage if it can survive long enough to do that damage. It thankfully can take a Gauss rifle shell to the torso. There's no center torso. Protos just have torso. It can take a Gauss rifle to the torso and still keep going. So at least has a minor bit of durability. They are strange little things. And I am really not sold on them. In fact, even though I showed you I own the metal miniatures, I have probably used them in less than a handful of games, if even a handful of games. So, they are really what I consider to be the long-lost... They're the great mistake of Clan Smoke Jaguar. So Clan Smoke Jaguar has other mistakes, I will admit, but they are a giant mistake. They will be used to better effect by the Society later on when we get to the Wars of Reaving stuff, which I might cover myself later on in the channel. But still, They are not a brilliant mech. I can't see spending the excuse being the materials necessary to build Battlemechs is becoming scarce, so they build Protos. I can't see wasting enough to build 5 Protos when you could get the same amount of material to build 1 mech to be an adequate exchange. You can get 45-ton mech. You can get a Shadow Cat for 5 Minotaurs. Is that good savings? You only have to risk 1 life in a Shadow Cat, whereas you're wasting 5 idiots' lives in Minotaurs. The guy in the Shadow Cat can eject. The guys in the Minotaurs are toast. The Shadow Cat's got, in general, better maneuverability. 696, often with mask going to 12. Possibly always with mask going to 12. It carries better weapons, from Gauss rifles, ER large lasers, to larger streak launchers. It's got well over 100 points of armor, meaning it's better armored in general. And it's just, 45 tons of Shadow Cat I'd rather take in general over 45 tons of Protos. Maybe I'll have to give more of a try in the future. My campaign that I'm running currently will eventually get to that era, and I might have some fun with them. We will see. But for now, in general, Protomechs just, well, they really are. If you look at the total list that's on the screen right now behind me probably, you will see that the total amount of Protomechs in existence is a whopping 22. That's it. 22 Protomechs in all of Battletech's history. They're not good. They really aren't. I probably didn't cover the rules as well as I could have on them because I really did just kind of give them a me. The funny thing about the 3060 technical readout, at least the copy I've got, has the design rules for how to build your own Protomechs, because that's exactly something you want to do. It also has blank record sheets for Protomechs in the back. Again, because that's something you really want to do. Anyways, we've come to the end of this video, so it's time to do the typical YouTube things. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. You might disagree with me and think Protomechs are the cream of the crop. And if you do, I kind of think you're a little bit weird. Anyways, please subscribe. It helps me out. And we've come to the end of the video. This is SleeplessRonin saying, sayonara. We'll catch you next time.